the average commercial solar installer is a much smaller business than resi. They tend to be hyper local. So you don't have, some have certainly gone out of business, but you don't have these like big national companies that are like boom bust, right?
Right.
And they're not door to, like you're not selling commercial door to door. So I think like your installer channel is a little bit more stable. It's good and bad, right? It's good because they're not out of business, but like there is no commercial solar installer who's got 5% market share or even 1%. It's a very, very fragmented industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're a little bit more stable. They're a little bit less sophisticated on the sales and probably more sophisticated on the construction side.
Yeah.
Less sophisticated probably on the sales and marketing side, right? This is a newer industry. A lot of them like want help, like how do I get leads, right? Whereas in residential, everyone knows how to get leads, and it's actually hard to actually install systems, right?
It's harder to build it, not as hard to build it
because right. Anyone can go knock on a door, but
it's so funny. You're right. It's the opposite. They don't know how to get leads, and they do know how to build it.
It's the classic military problem of like, how do you occupy a territory? You do like the Romans did, right? You need like boots on the ground. Like you can go sell stuff, but you got to go like put boots on a roof to install it, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the installer channel is a little bit more stable. I think like interest rates have bounced around a lot. They're lower now than they were a year ago, but they're much higher than they were when we started the company. So I think the only saving grace there is power prices have gone up, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like, you know, how good is the deal for the customer?
Yeah.
Power prices largely, if inflation drives up interest rates, it will also drive up power prices. Because even if the commodity cost of power doesn't move that much, the distribution and transmission, if you think about a utility, there's a bank, right? Utilities borrow money and do capital improvements. The cost of borrowing goes up. Their cost of financing goes up. They'll charge more to ratepayers. Also, utilities drive trucks around and they cut trees and they put up wood poles. And when wages go up and the cost of copper goes up, like their costs go up too, right? So you're seeing, I get like Analytics emails every day. Every day it's like this utility raising rates 12%, you know, FP&L 22%. Like the rates are rising a lot, right? Today, the most challenging thing is the tax credit uncertainty. So if you're a business and your system's not going to be installed at 25, like, do you want to wait, right? And then tariffs, like again, like, you know, tariffs. I don't actually think the impact of tariffs on the solar supply chain are all that big because the cost of equipment for commercial and resi, because the cost of equipment is a smaller part of the overall cost stack.
Right.
Probably a different analysis for utility scale, but it's just a business uncertainty. Like if you're a business and your personal stock account is down, and you're hearing, you know, Jerome Powell yesterday say that maybe there's a recession. Yeah. And Jamie Dimon saying this, you know, it's like, well, do I want to make a capital investment right now? Right.
Right.
And I think, you know, you can say, well, you actually do for solar because solar is going to reduce your utility expense. Mm-hmm. But that's not how most people think, right? They think like, oh, like uncertain times, let me like buckle down and borrow less. And so like that's kind of out there. And so like, how do we deal with that? Well, we try and get as efficient as possible. Like, can we get our cost of capital lower relative to rates? Can we figure out new credit methodologies to approve more kinds of deals? Yeah. Right. So even if the market isn't growing, can we get to more borrowers? Right. You know, can we launch new products? So we have a tax credit transfer loan coming out soon. Yeah. We'll lend a borrower money and we'll also facilitate the sale of their tax credit as part of that. Can we open up the market a little bit? Right. You know, can we do things to help ease the pain of our installers? Can we get our underwriting more efficient? So our underwriting timeline has dropped about 50% from 23 to 24. We want to drop it again another 50% more. Like, can we keep reducing friction in the process? And so that will be, if we can continue to make it easier to sell, that when the economy does turn around, then it will at some point, then we'll be poised to really take off. And so that's sort of how we think. Like, I can't control interest rates. I can't control tariffs, but I can control how easy I am to work with and the number of kind of deals that we can accommodate. And look, I mean, the commercial market is still growing. I would say like, unlike resi, it actually is growing. I think it will be growing faster, but for all these things. Yeah. But it is growing.
I'm eager to hear your thoughts around EV charging, batteries, integrating these next layer technologies that do seem like they're like readily attachable to homeowners. A little more complicated when you try to think about all the other ways that a business can spend money, because you start kind of getting into like, well, talk to me about your overall operating budget. Yeah. What's your vision for integrating technologies like these for commercial financing in particular?
So today we finance them. So we don't do them as standalones. Okay. We'll do solar plus. Mm-hmm. About 20% of our deals have storage. Okay. At some level. A smaller percentage for EV charging, probably 5 to 10%. I think a lot of businesses say, hey, look, I'm making an investment to reduce my operating expenses.
Yeah.
I recognize that my customers or my employees have some EVs. So if I can put some of them in, great. And if I'm in California or Connecticut or Massachusetts or Texas, there's actually a reason to have a battery, an economic reason.
Yeah.
And let me kind of do it all at once. And I think some installers are also selling that. I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword because obviously it makes the sale more complicated because you're adding in more things, right? But we're happy to finance it. Like I view Sunstone's business as solar is our anchor today, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're technology agnostic. Like I want to finance any energy transition product that touches our market.
Can you give me examples?
So today it's solar storage, EV charging. We do roofs. Why do we do roofs? Because if you reduce friction in financing for solar and you have $1 million solar system, but your roof is 18 years old and you have to replace your roof and you need financing for that, well, you're stuck, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I need to finance $1 million. So we finance roofs.
Dude, I did a really interesting episode a couple of years ago now with a guy from Sun Optics, the skylight company. I mean, the economics are unbelievable for installing skylights on commercial roofs, both from a health and well-being perspective, like improvement of overall like happiness. Like there's a happiness index that is measurable by the amount of daylight that can get inside of a building. Have you guys looked at like lighting and daylight options for buildings?
We haven't yet, but we will at some point. Like, I mean, HVAC would be a thing. Like a lot of these borrowers, like, you know, their HVAC unit is 10 years old and it keeps getting patched up because they want to buy a new one. It's going to get financing. Yeah. But like, look, I mean, there could be some magical technology at MIT right now that will not 5 years and reduce energy usage and we'll finance it.
Got it.
And so, you know, over time, we'll look to build new channels and finance new things. So we want to add new financing offerings and like, you know, we'll do it in a technology agnostic way and we'll let the market pick. Like, I don't know what's going to win in the market. The market will decide, we'll finance it.
Yeah. What do you look for in installers?
So for us is experience. Doesn't always have to be experience at that company. So like if Nico and Josh have been installing solar for 10 years for Bob and we go start a new business, you know, most people say, I don't want to work with them, right? Because they're brand new. And there is some added risk there, but really like, do Nico and Josh know how to actually get on a roof and install solar, right? Yeah. And if I can deduce that, then I can be okay with a newer company. So really it's experience in solar, quality proposal. I think in commercial, like I think we're very, very focused on does the borrower get what they think they're getting? So I'd rather have a borrower who saves 5% than a borrower who thought they were saving 80% and saves 30%, right? Because the borrower is getting the 5%, they're getting what they thought they were getting. The other guy is saving more, but he thought he was saving even more, right? And so commercial is very tricky with demand charges. And so we want to understand like, how are you actually quoting solar? Are you using Energy Toolbase? Are you using a real tool? Or are you doing like a hacked up Excel spreadsheet?
What products exist today for, I can't even say that I could name a product that is dedicated to like helping generate commercial proposals.
On the design side, there's a few you can use like Helioscope and some other stuff.
Sure, but I mean on
the quoting side, there's honestly not much. There are some companies have Excel spreadsheets that are actually like pretty robust, but obviously like, you know, very clunky. And then there's Energy Toolbase. And then a lot of folks try and use like Aurora or other ones, but those don't actually work. Like they produce a beautiful proposal that's wildly inaccurate because they don't know how to account for fixed charges. If this were a
YouTube video, it'd be like a ding, business opportunity, little light bulb.
It's a very hard problem to solve.
It is. It's incredibly hard. And it's why it has remained sort of relegated to homegrown sort of internal resources because unlike Resi, commercial deals are so bespoke. They can be very difficult to try and put inside of a box that a proposal generator can easily make look beautiful. Yeah.
And I think from like a business model, like Resi, you know, all those guys charge by volume, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, you got companies that are doing thousands of proposals a month, right? Commercial, no one's doing thousands of proposals a month, right?
Yeah.
No one's doing hundreds of proposals a month, or maybe even tens of proposals a month, right? Right. And so it's like, could you actually go through the brain damage to build the tool? Could you actually make money doing it? And I think what we saw was
it is a market dominant product. Like you come out with the one product and everybody uses it.
I agree, and we're constantly talking to folks and saying, hey, you should do it. And I think part of the problem today is that a lot of the Resi tools that would actually, like, you know, in Aurora, like those guys are all hurting like everybody else because their volumes are down, right? And so like, Today, are they going to go invest in this new product?
Yeah.
And that's probably a tough internal sell.
Yeah. I think Helioscope tried, but it
they
seems
have a great design tool. The quoting there, it's in their roadmap, but it's not
perpetually in the roadmap.
There is an opportunity there for a more user friendly, more property owner friendly tool. We've looked at building something that we're not doing it right now. It's only so many things you can be good at.
One of those things of like useful, but not for us. I remember
it's always on the list and never,
that's right.
never gets into the to-do list.
Yeah. Like I said, if it hasn't gotten to the top of Aurora Helioscope's to-do list, why would it be on top of yours?
Yes.
I remember when I first learned the impact to net operating income from an economic perspective of a business owner, commercial speaking, when I learned that lexicon, that verbiage, it became so much easier to kind of get on the level with a business owner and try to help them understand how solar benefited them. Are there other things like that you've learned about how to sell into commercial that are non-obvious to the casual observer or to the resi guy trying to get into commercial?
Oh yeah, it's so much more complicated. And again, we don't sell, but we try to educate our partners. So
that's right.
Gross versus triple net leases, right? If your gross lease means as the property owner, and there's all kinds of flavors of these, but at a high level, a gross lease means I charge rent to my tenant and I provide, among other things, utilities. So as the building owner, I'm responsible for paying the utility bill.
Right.
Right. So if I save money on my bill, I, as the building owner, save money. Great. Right. It's like a home, and a home is a gross ownership. Like you own the home, you pay the utility bill. A lot of properties are what's called triple net. Right. Yeah. And one of those nets is utility bills. So I own the property. Nico, you're my tenant. You're responsible for your own bill. Mm-hmm. So I don't give a shit about solar.
That's right.
Because it doesn't save me any money. Right. Yeah. And you don't want to put solar on the roof because you don't own the building. Right. Now, there's a way to solve that, right? You can build into your lease that says, hey, even though it's triple net, and by the way, building owners love triple net.
Oh, yeah.
Most non-office stuff is triple net. Yeah. It's a triple net lease, but to the extent I provide you with power at a below market rate, you're required to buy it from me. Mm-hmm. And so now the landlord can buy a solar system, still be triple net, provide power at 10 cents, but their cost of power is 8 cents. And now they're making extra NOI to your earlier point, right?
Right.
And that's all property owners care about.
Yep.
NOI, because their buildings trade off cap rates and NOI, right?
That's right.
And so, every dollar of NOI can be worth $20, $15 at a sale.
20, yeah.
Yeah, depending on how and they know this, right?
It's even better in like the telecom. This is where I learned it when I was at Conergy. We were selling to telecom down in the Caribbean, and the multiple on NOI for these remote telecom companies was 30.
It's insane, right?
It's insane.
And these folks know it, and so they're obviously trying to raise rent, right? If that's something they want to do. But I think you're in an environment right now where the interest rates are up, so your debt service is up, which affects sale prices certainly, and it's hard to raise rent because people are stressed. And I think property owners are looking for other ways to generate cash flow. Right. Mm-hmm. And if you can if you can understand how the commercial property owner thinks, and we try and provide these services to our installers, like what does the commercial property owner think? They think I'm property ownership is passive. I'm lazy. I don't want to do anything. Right. But I want to generate extra cash. Yeah. And so if you can have a solution where they own the solar asset and then you can help them monetize it in triple net lease, help them generate that NOI, make it easy for them. You can service it, then you can sell it, right?
Yeah.
And I think I've always thought of this business. You mentioned cell towers. If you go back to like the early 90s and you ask people who were in real estate then about cell towers, they'd be like, nobody wanted a cell tower, right? It was like, it's ugly. It's going to give people brain cancer. It's going to like fall off the roof and like damage a car, or like impale somebody. This, right? But like, of course, some people said, sure. And they started making money. And then once properties start trading, it was like, how did you get that much money for your building over there? Oh, and an extra $10,000 a month of NOI because I have the cell tower. Oh shit! Like, how do I get one of those? Right?
Yeah.
And so I was now every building has cell towers.
Yeah.
And so I believe that would be the same thing like as solar. And when you take off from the airport and look down, occasionally you see a system. I think 20 years from now, every roof is going to have it, right?
For sure.
Because property owners say, hey, I am generating extra NOI. It's not just the $10,000 a year I save or the $100,000 a year I save, right? It's the $100,000 a year of NOI times 15 or 20. And that cap rate bump is worth more in day one than the system costs. Set aside the tax benefits too, right?
If I started a solar company today, it would be a commercial solar company and it would be called NOI Max. I would literally name the company that. And I would only target building owners.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I think, look, for a lot of building owners, that means doing a PPA. And there's a lot of building owners who don't want someone else owning something on their roof because it complicates their lives, right? And so I think it's a big market and there's room for both. Totally. And, we think that, we help empower those folks who want to own their own asset, generate their NOI, use the tax credits. Look, and there's also plenty of businesses that don't care about NOI. Because look, it's like, I'm Josh's dentist office. I'm never selling the building, right?
Right.
So I don't care about NOI. I care about cash flow and tax benefits, right? And so it's like understanding, as a homeowner, everyone's the same, right? They want to just save money on their utility bill. Every commercial property owner is very different. Like we do loans for farmers where when you figure out their actual cost of power in their loan, they're paying a little bit more today than a current utility bill.
Yeah.
But what are they thinking? They're thinking, I'm going to be on this land for 3 more generations.
Yep.
Right. I see utilities are going to be raising my rates. If I can lock in my rate today, even at a small premium to the grid, I know exactly what my power is going to cost for irrigation for the next 20 or 30 years. That's a massive win. Right. And so like everyone's motivation is a little bit different. You got to understand that. And if you do, and you can speak their language, you can win. And look, as you know, like, this is also not a one call close business. Like you don't walk into a property owner's office and close a $2 million deal in one call. Like they're going to have questions. They need help. Can you give them the proper citations for the tax code and the depreciation? So when they go to their accountant and say, hey, should I do this? Their accountant doesn't say, I'll get back to you in 3 months. They say, no. Like, okay, here's the exact things I need to look at. Yes, this checks out. You're okay to go do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.